Sir, I got to say right off the top, if anybody told me when I was younger that I would be speaking with a spinner, I'd never believe that because my family grew up on y'all music. We, have the vinyl albums, and it's always been part of our lives. When you think about the legacy of the Spinners and what this group has done for music, how do you feel about knowing that you are helping to still represent that legacy?
The feeling, I guess, I would have to say is quite surreal. It's amazing to be a part of something so wonderful, something so magical, something that for decades has touched the lives and hearts of people young and old. And then to be a member of the Spinners, to be a part of that magical tool that comes into town and leaves people happy and smiling and dancing in the aisles. It's a huge blessing. I take it very seriously. Very, very
Def
fortunate.
Definitely is because, of course,
Mm.
one of the reasons why we're talking Fallsview Casino,
Yes.
Monday, April 28th, right through to Wednesday, April 30th. So it's not just one show, we have several shows.
That's right. That's right. Several shows, and each show will be full of energy, packed with lots of fun and surprises. And again, expect to see folks, like I said, dancing in the aisle and just having a fantastic time. That's what our concert is all about.
What do you think is the magic behind the music and the image of the Spinners? Because what we don't see these days is groups who sing in harmony,
Mm-hmm.
who dress a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
who dance a certain way, but then their music has a certain message.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the memories that are tied to the music. When you hear a Spinner song, it takes you back to that first kiss. It takes you sometimes back to that first heartbreak. It reminds you of your childhood and the things that empowered you and that were instilled in you as you were coming up. A lot of things that we don't hear and that aren't instilled into young people today, the morals, the principles, the values, the ideal of what love actually is, and how to love someone and how to be loved in return. Songs like "It Takes a Fool to Learn That Love Don't Love Nobody." I tell you, it hit me really hard when I found out to the core just what that song really means, and to perform that song live on stage, and you're pouring sweat, and it was touching me in a way that tears are coming down. The audience didn't know it; they think, "Oh, he sweats a lot," But the music just touches your soul when we sing Sadie. And everyone has a mother, a grandmother, an auntie, that person in their lives that loved them, that scolded them, that looked out for them, that helped bring them up. And Sadie is a song that reminds you of that woman. And there's not a night that we perform that song that there aren't tears somewhere in the audience as someone's thinking about their Sadie. So yeah,
Why
it's
don't
it's go ahead.
no so no sorry, I interrupted you.
No, to wrap it up. I'm long winded. It's the memories associated with it, the feelings that are associated with those songs that the people love so much.
But why don't we have that now? And no disrespect to the artists of today, but I feel like the 90s was the last, and this is my opinion, the
Mm.
last of artists who could sing from, they could do gospel, they could do so many different things. And I feel like that has become a lost art. Do you agree or disagree with that? And
I,
if so, how do we get that back?
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. That the tricky question is, how do we get that back when it's the powers that be that control, what's put out there musically and what's fed to the masses. Like watching television, it's called programming for a reason. They're taking away those love songs. Those songs are about sweet things. Those songs that are thought provoking, and we're being left with just this watered down version of what we once called music. Why? Because it's still profitable. They can make lots of money. The artists today are not like the artists of yesteryear. You can grab someone off the corner and throw them in the studio, and without any knowledge as to what they're doing and what they're signing, now you're making millions of dollars off of these artists, and they're getting very little in return. It was that way back in the day, but our old school artists are a lot smarter now than we were then. And the artists that are out today, some of the greatest artists will never hear. You'll never know their
Sure.
name. You'll never hear a note. But it's a lot of the watered down music that's being funneled our way now, and there's just no substance. How do we bring that back? I'm hoping that with the changes in the industry, I'm hoping now with the power being placed more in the hands of the artists and having tools like YouTube and other platforms to be able to put your music out on your own. I'm hoping that will begin to make a change and steer us back to the beautiful thing that music once was.
Well, just so you know, here in Toronto, we have artists like Sean Jones, who is an R&B Juno winner, who is doing R&B shows. We have several other artists who are doing R&B shows and performing music like the Spinners, who really are trying to bring that essence back. But I want to even go back to the Spinners, Motown. What was it like for the Spinners back then, the original members, in not just being part of that legacy, but knowing that there were so many great artists, not in just the Motown family, but in Philly and in so many other cities. What was that like for them?
Well, it was an experience unlike that of most of the Motown artists. When the Spinners worked at Motown, they literally worked at Motown. Bobby was a driver. He was a chauffeur. He picked up the Jackson Five when they were flown into town. Yeah.
Wow.
Purvis Jackson, he worked in the mailroom, lifting and carrying and, doing such things. And, Barry wasn't interested in doing anything with the Spinners except, having them on that contract. Thank God for Stevie Wonder, who complained about a song he wrote that was just sitting on the shelf, a song called It's a Shame. So as that song was finally getting played, the Spinners were making their exit to Atlantic Records. I got the call from Aretha Franklin, hey, honey, y'all need to come over here. You'll love it. It sounded real good. And it happened. And the transition of the Spinners from Motown to Philadelphia was how the phrase Motown Philly was coined. The Spinners leaving Motown and going to Philly, where all those wonderful Spinner hits came from. That was the Motown Philly sound.
And we are talking really, and correct me if I'm wrong, 70s throughout the 80s was really the golden age of the Spinners. And again, I have to go back. What was it like for the Spinners in putting out so many great hits? But this was in an era where you had other artists. It could be the Commodores. It could be Barkays. It could be so many other groups. It was like every other week there was a badass group putting out a new album. And then 2 weeks later, they were putting out another new album. It was a consistency. Right. What was it like to know now you're competing with all of these great artists? Because not just for the Spinners, but I think in music in general, to me, that was a golden age as well.
Well, the competition has always been friendly. Well, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that there's plenty of room on the airwaves. There's enough room for everybody. Remember the one complaint you hear about radio stations is you'll hear the same song every 2 hours, or more, that power rotation. But you loosen that up, and there's room for everyone to get airplay. There's room for everyone to do a show and to sell records, and it's a healthy competition. We still have little gripes and beefs with the Temptations and Four Tops. We'll see. I'll see Rokel from the Four Tops, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to kick your butts tonight." And I'm like, "Not in that uniform, you're not." But we're buddies, we're friends. We call each other, we stay in touch, and the competition is definitely healthy, and it keeps us on our toes. Everybody wants to give the best show they possibly can. Everybody wants to please the crowd, so it's the audience that wins.
Choreograph, the clothing, the vocals. I don't think people understand how hard it is to sing at the level that you all sing and be dancing at the same time and even being as tight as you are. Can you talk about that? And also, of course, picking out the clothing, because again, that's something I miss so much in seeing on stage.
Yeah, and that lends to the art of performing, being under those hot spotlights with some heavy, outfit on, we're all dressed alike. And yeah, you've got to sing, you've got to harmonize, you've got to blend, with your fellow group members. and at the same time you're jumping up and down, doing all this crazy choreography. It comes with conditioning. You know, we exercise, we take good care of ourselves. We've got one member that's in the gym quite often. Another guy, he runs every morning. Me, I'm a little mix of both. I like the gym. I like to work out, but a little cardio. I'm not too much into that, but you've got to keep your body in great physical condition to be able to jump around night after night and sing and be able to hit your notes precisely while blending with the rest of the group. It is truly an art form. Not to get so excited and caught up in the moves that you're doing that you're not, too loud in the microphone. You've got to do all of that. You've got to hit your cues, hit your mark. When you get back to that microphone, you have to be soft. You have to finesse and hit that note just right, the right tonation, and with the right blend. And it's an art. It really is. You have to work hard at it. Sometimes there are guys in groups where you may have one guy that sings a little too loud. Like tone it down a little bit. But I think we're pretty good about blending and giving everyone a good quality sound, vocally, while doing everything else that's required of us on stage.
How important was Dionne Warwick to the Spinners? You notice how I asked it.
Yeah. I got to start pre-screening these questions. No, I don't mind. I like being surprised, and that's a delightful one. Dionne Warwick, awesome, and a wonderful part of the Spinners history, and even to this day, she continues to bless us. We just honored her about a year ago. We performed at the Kennedy Awards, a televised award show every year. And of course, we performed Then Came You, the big hit that she sang with the Spinners back in the day. So that was wonderful. But a few months after that, we're in California. We're doing a show with a bunch of different groups. I think it was called Love Nation or something to that effect. And I mean, Shaka Khan, the Isley Brothers. It was the last time that we saw Tito Jackson. The Jacksons, that we spoke to them as they would buy them. When it's your turn, you hop on the golf cart and then you go on off and we wave. We'll see you when your part's over. But yeah, that was the last time we saw Tito. And prayers out to the Jackson family. Continue prayers. But at that show, to get to the point, Dionne Warwick was there. And as we're going out on stage, now, mind you, Dionne Warwick is a true diva. She is a true diva. She's definitely a woman to be upheld in the game that we call entertainment and what we call music. She is an icon. So imagine our surprise, as we're walking out onto the stage, the Spinners, and we've got to walk around Miss Warwick. We saw her before the show, but now you're sitting down on the side of this. We're like, okay, this is interesting. Okay, we better do a good job, not expecting anything beyond that. Well, sure enough, it comes down to the medley of the show. Towards the end of the song we performed, Then Came You. Who strolls out onto the stage but Miss Dionne Warwick herself? I look to my right, and I'm never choked up, as you can tell. I'm never at a loss for words, but I just remember being frozen for what seemed like an eternity as she glided out onto the stage and approached the mic. There was nothing we needed to discuss or plan or prepare for. We knew what to do. And she already knew what her part was and what to do. So we performed that song like never before. I'm getting chills right now just talking about the moment when Dionne Warwick walked out on stage with us, completely unannounced, and performed Then Came You. That was a beautiful, beautiful moment.
When it comes to the performances for the Spinners, what songs have to be performed? If you don't perform them, the stage will be burned down.
Wow. Well, you could say that about most of the songs, but I'm going to say right off the rip, you better do Sadie.
Yeah.
Better do Sadie. We better do Rubber Band Man. Could it be I'm Falling in Love? Then there are folks that have to hear I Could Have Let You Get Away. It's probably most of the songs in our lineup are that way. But that reminds me of a story. Back in the day, the Rumble in the Jungle.
Yes.
If that's not before your time, okay.
No.
Okay. the big battle in Africa with Muhammad Ali, the big bout that he had, and the groups that were performing there, and the Spinners were going around to different villages and were performing, and there was a song that they loved there called "Throwing a Good Love Away," a little known song here in the States, but over there during apartheid, that was like their theme song, and we performed the song once, and people seemed a little hostile. You know, they were kind of throwing things or whatever. And so, what's the problem? What's going on? He said, well, you guys are going to, I forgot what the next city was. He said, but if you don't perform that song when you get there, there'll be an even bigger problem. So that was one song. And then that's a true story that had to be performed, or Africa was going to tear some things up for the Spinners. So you just reminded me of that with that question.
You know, and I've seen the doc. I have it on DVD and on VHS, so it's
Okay.
one of my favorite documentaries. I don't know if you knew this or not. Maybe you did. Rubber Band Man. Did you know that when that song came out, people were taking rubber bands, putting them together, and they were dancing with them? Did you know about that? Because I know in Toronto when that song came out, the song would come out, people go in their pocket, bring out the rubber bands, and they would do this sort of dance with them as it went back and forth. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, I do remember that, and to this day we have people that show up at the concerts with either a rubber band that they created themselves or a rubber band that they got from a past Spinner show. They'll bring it along. It's just wonderful seeing grown folks just acting like kids again, having fun. I love it.
The other one I want to talk about is Cupid.
Yes.
Did you ever? I mean, I know with the way you guys recorded this, because it wasn't just one song, it was two songs.
Mhm.
And did you think that would be such a mega hit the way you guys recorded this? Because this was something special, especially back then, because it was one of those collaboration songs where it could be on any, could be dropped on any genre, could be dropped anywhere. You want to bring people up, getting them up to dance. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of our jump off the stage into the audience songs as well. We get more interactive with the crowd. You know, that album period was a coming out for John Edwards, who was not an original member of the Spinners, but he was impactful. He was as impactful as Felipe Wynn. He was as impactful, certainly, as G.C. Cameron. Don't think that any of the songs were expected to be as big a hits as they were. Just over and over again, a new album comes out, more hits. In fact, the producer for the first album, Tom Bell, he told them guys, he said, "Yeah, these are gonna be hits. You guys gotta have a hit record." Spinners like, yeah, whatever. He said, "Well, tell you what, you guys get a hit off this record, you're gonna buy me a car." I'm like, okay, and sure enough, that there were hits. There were hits and hits and hits on that album. But Tom Bell said, "Well, don't worry about it. I don't drive anyway. I can't drive a car." So they were let off the hook for that. But no, it was over and over again. And Bobby even mentioned he would just say in passing, to Henry or to one of the guys, "We got another hit. It happened again." And just every time it was a surprise. It wasn't expected. Yeah, the Spinners never took for granted that, we're going to put this out and they're going to just love us. It was always with a hope and a prayer that it would be continual acceptance and continual love and support of each song, of each album as they came out. So
I'm curious. Did you ever see the movie The Five Heartbeats that was based on the Dells story?
yeah, we were supposed to be the group. We were supposed to be singing, and that the Dells, the part that the Dells do in that movie, that was originally supposed to be the Spinners. That's
What
all.
did you? But what did you think of the story itself? Because I know originally Townsend was going to make it into a comedy, but because he heard about the stories that groups like yourselves went through, he
Mm-hmm.
said he had to make it into what he did, into a drama to really represent. What did you think of that in a fictional group, basically representing all groups.
Yeah. I'm glad that they chose the writing style that they did. I'm glad it wasn't made into a comedy. As it is, the Five Heartbeats, being an entertainer and artist for many years, I mean, performing since the age of 9 or 10 years old, that movie is relatable on so many levels to everyone who's ever been a part of a singing group, who's ever aspired to be and do something great in the music industry. That movie hits the mark, and in fact, it's one of my favorite movies. Favorite movies, from the record business and the labels and how they treat people to the camaraderie that the musicians, that the fellow singers had amongst each other. There are a couple parts in that movie that still bring me to tears, but where the guys had an issue. One guy was going through something and he thought he was going to have to go it alone. And then you hear this soft music, the violins kick in, and one man puts his hand out, another man puts his hand on top of another. We're a group, we're a family. That is such a touching moment for me. I can so relate to that. It's one thing to be in a group of guys that can perform well and all that, but when you're a family, when the group is cohesive, that's when it's truly a wonderful thing. And the Five Heartbeats movie was able to capture the essence of that. So yeah, I love that movie.
R&B Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm.
Highlight for the Spinners?
Definitely, and it's something that we well kind of suffered over for a few years. The first 3 years we were nominated, we did not get in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The fourth year, we just launched a huge campaign. We got the fans more involved, and it's because of the fans that we were finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the blessing in it coming when it did was that it happened while Henry Fambrough, our last and original founding member, was still alive and standing with us. So I'm thankful to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for acknowledging the Spinners while Henry was still among us. So grateful for that. And that was another huge and monumental moment in my life as the Spinners, and they just keep coming.
We're in 2025 as we speak. The story cannot be over with. Please tell me there's new music. Please tell me there's updates going on. We already know you're doing shows like Fallsview Casino. What else is going on in the future of the Spinners?
Well, besides Fallsview, which we always look forward to performing there, it's a wonderful venue. We do have an album that's out right now. It's called Full Circle. And I urge you to pick up your copy of Full Circle at thespinners.com, Spotify, Amazon, wherever music's sold. You can get your copy. Again, the album is called, I'm old school because I say album, but the CD is called Full Circle with the Spinners. And actually, in fact, we did our first music video ever. There's lots of video footage of the Spinners, but we have never done a music video until this album. So the video is called After Hours, and you can check that out. You can pull that up on YouTube or anywhere. Just pull up the Spinners, vibing After Hours, and enjoy. But yeah, enjoying the new music that we're doing. Hoping that we'll do another album possibly in the next year or so, and just still enjoying the fans. It's wonderful that we're still showing up and selling out concerts. It's wonderful that folks still want to come see and hear and enjoy the Spinner. So it's because of people like you that support us. Thank you so much for the airplay, keeping us alive, and all the fans and friends and family that we have out there. We love y'all. Thank you so much.
We can still remember, and y'all used to play in Toronto, summertime. It would be Ontario Place with the revolving stage, and you'd have groups like Tavares perform, and then it'd be the next week you guys would be performing. And just like I said, you don't realize what you're seeing then until you get older now and realize how special the shows that you guys did back then were. And it's why I miss it so much, and which is why for me, if I could go in that hot tub time machine and go back and tell little me, you're going to be interviewing one of those guys in the future, wouldn't believe it in a million years. So for me, this is so special. From me, my family, the neighborhood, and Toronto. so special for us to get a chance to speak with you to let you know how much we love the Spinners. We love the music that you gave us. Being able to wake up and watch Soul Train and watch the Spinners there or American Bandstand, those were the days for us. So, from us to you and to the group, thank you so much for the legacy and the music.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. On behalf of the Spinners, thank you for the love that you all have continued to give us through the decades. And we promise to always stand true to what you expect from the Spinners. It is an honor as well as a responsibility, and we don't take it lightly. So thank you very much.